Hello, everybody, and welcome this morning to a fresh year of freedom with me, Samantha Jung-Fielding, walking you through the process that I use for hidden burden management. Now, what is a hidden burden? Well, it's anything that you've got going on that is causing you negative emotions. And one of the fabulous things about this process is that it's completely safe. It's super easy and it's totally confidential because I'm not even going to ask you to reveal what it is that your burden is. But I've found that the process that I've used for nearly 20 years now can be used with anybody of any age. And I've also found that it works super well in groups. So what we're going to do today is just a quick demo with one person that will come on camera a little bit later on so that you can see for yourself. If you're watching here live and you're doing this, you don't have to say a word. And if you're watching on replay, then you know the procedure that we're following and you know what to expect from the process because you're seeing it done with somebody in a live manner. So I hope it's going to prove really helpful for you. As I say, I've used it myself for nearly 20 years. And I actually found this process after I came out of a very negative relationship, which unfortunately had abuse in lots of different forms. And I'd been to see a lot of different people, and I hadn't really found that any of the processes that I was using were actually addressing the situation. I was still find myself in other moments where if something triggered me, I would be dragged right back into the negative feelings I'd had when I was in that abusive situation. So what I wanted was something that would give me the release of the emotions and allow me to just have the memories of that time. Because no matter how bad situations are, there's usually some positive in a situation as well. And I wanted to be able to keep the positives and to let go of all the negatives, and particularly let go of being dragged back to feeling the way I had felt when I was in a powerless and uncontrollable situation. So I hope this is going to be something that you'll find useful too. The way I wanted us to get started today is to talk a little bit about how we store our negative emotions in the body. Now, I work with 5 big negatives, and I usually go 5 like this, because when I'm working with a client, I'm usually going to give them a grid and I'm going to get them to write down their triggers for their negative emotions. So when we play the game today, you're going to get to write down your triggers for the first of those 5 negatives. I work with anger, with sadness, with fear, hurt, and guilt. And there's a reason that I address them in that order. So if you're already starting to think about, okay, well, the one I'd like to work with today is sadness or guilt, that's fine. But the one we're going to demo today is anger, because I work with them in the order from anger through sadness, then fear, hurt, and guilt. And if I explain the way that we store our negative emotions inside our mind and body, perhaps it'll help you to understand why I do it that way. So our memory and the emotion of the memory are not stored inside your mind in the same place. And I like to imagine this a little bit like a string of pearls. So if we imagine a single string of pearls, and this one is called the anger string of pearls. Beneath it, there is one for sadness, there's another one for fear, a 4th one for hurt, and a 5th one for guilt. But we're just going to look at the top one today. And if you think about all the times in your life that you've ever been angry, every single one of them has created a pearl that's gone on to that string of pearls called anger. Now, some of those pearls are going to be teeny tiny little, smaller than my fingernail, which is great. But some of them are going to be huge, like marshmallow sized balls of anger. and they've all come together on that string. So if we were to break the string, I'm sure that you would agree that those pearls will just go everywhere. And that is one of the great things about breaking a string of pearls, but it's also one of the annoying things because some of them roll away, they go under the sofa, and you're never going to be able to find all of the pearls again. Some of them are going to get covered in those balls of dust. Some of them will just seem like they've bounced and disappeared into the ether. And this is actually the magical process that we want to create with our release today. We want all of the pearls on your previous string to just go. And so we want to break the string right back at the beginning, before the very first time you ever experienced anger. Now, I said that I work with the 5 negatives in the order of anger, sadness, etc. And that's because I'm sure you'll agree there's some situations in your life where you've experienced more than one negative emotion at once. Perhaps something has made you angry and also made you sad or hurt you, or perhaps made you feel guilty. So when we release that first string and we break it and all the pearls are going to be able to drop, some of them are going to join up with the pearls on the strings beneath. And this is why we begin with anger. Now, as females, many of us find it really difficult to express our anger. In fact, if you think about it, heterosexually, anger is not something girls are encouraged to express. And so many of us will repress our anger, and we could even have difficulty getting in touch with it. So this is why we have the process of writing the triggers down. And I'm going to ask you to start thinking about things that in your past or present have caused you to experience anger. And I'm going to do this in 2 ways. I want to ask you about the moments themselves, but I also want to ask you how you know that those triggers are working for you. So when you're thinking about a moment in the present or in the past, and it could be something that happened just this morning. It might be, for example, you had a row with your partner, with your child. Here in New Zealand, it's the first day of children going back to school, and somehow my hairspray seems to have disappeared. And I was a little irritated to discover that my daughter took it with her when she went round to her friend's house last night to get ready for school together this morning. So we're going to work with not just the big anger, but any little subsets of anger as well, because that might be the way that you get in touch with the anger that you want to release in our game today. So your subsets are things like irritation, frustration. Any of those are valid moments that are going to work for you to play our game today. So as I said, it could be a moment, a situation, a scenario, or it could be a particular individual. Now, I always used to joke, especially with gentlemen, when I was playing this game, and I would say, "What makes you angry?" And they would respond, "The mother-in-law." So if there's a particular person in your world that literally you just have to call them to mind and it gives you that kind of feeling, you can write that down on your piece of paper today. Any moment or any person, they are great. An event or a scenario or an individual, write them down. And you can write them in any way that you want to. It could be a shorthand format. It could just have the name of the person. It could just have a few words that's going to remind you of the situation. All of the above are valid. Bullet points is just fine. because you're the only person that's going to use this writing on the piece of paper. I'm not going to see it. It's just for you. Now, there's a third way that you might need to be able to consider as to how you can get in touch with your anger. And that would be what I call global phenomenon. And that's for people who find it difficult to respond personally to situations or people that are affecting them. But they can say things like, oh, well, when I see somebody bullying somebody else, that really irritates me. Or the war in Syria, that really gets my goat, that people can't just find a way through. So global phenomenon, things that are happening out there in the world that may not be affecting you personally, but can also help you to get in touch with your moments of anger and irritation. They're great to write down on your piece of paper. And we're aiming to have a minimum of 3 triggers on your bit of paper. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring online, on screen, in fact, the person that's working with me today, my good friend Donna, because I want you to be able to understand in the conversation I have with Donna just how she is doing this if you're having some difficulty for yourself. So just bear with me as I invite Donna to unmute and I add her pin so that she comes up together on screen. Hey, Donna, thank you so much for joining me today. I thoroughly appreciate you helping me out with this. So, Donna, have you been able to write anything down already that has come to mind?
I've written a couple of things. So
You've got a
yeah.
couple of things. Great. So, did you go with people that irritate, frustrate, annoy you? Did you have any names that came to mind?
I had a few names come to mind.
Couple of
Yeah.
names, great. Did you have any scenarios, any situations, any events that were either just recently or even from far in your past? Did any of that come to mind for you? Yep,
Yeah.
some of those as well. Great stuff. And then, oops, heavens above, I have just dropped myself off screen. That was a bit of a surprise. And is there a global phenomenon that for you, when you think about it, it really irritates you, really annoys you?
Yeah. I definitely with the outside triggers that actually impact you as well.
Perfect. So you were able to use all 3 of my examples and you were able to write down at least 3 things on your list.
Yeah.
Amazing. Brilliant. So I'm hoping that that's giving everybody an idea of what it is that we're doing here. But now we're going to move to step 2, because this is where I'm going to ask Donna, so you're following along with the same process yourself, because I want to understand how Donna knows that the triggers that she's written down are actually her triggers for anger. So Donna, I'm speaking directly to you now, and I'd like you to respond to me out loud. How do you know when you look at those triggers that you've written down that they are working inside of you? Where is anger showing up inside your body? Can you tell me where it sits and what it's doing?
For me, I feel like I feel it through like my muscles and like I feel like it's almost like it kind of radiates through you, almost like that it's like it's not a feeling that's normal to you, like almost like an attack. Like yeah. Mm.
Brilliant. Where does it start, Donna? Where do you feel it first? When you look at your list, have another look for me at those things.
Yeah.
Where does it start in your body?
For me, my stomach, I feel my stomach. Yeah.
Stomach. Okay, that's great. Now I'm going to ask you some pretty silly questions because I really want us to get a bit of a handle on this feeling. Does it have a shape in your tummy?
Um, I feel like it takes more like on the sides, I guess more so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And what does it do inside your tummy so you know that it's there? Is it gripping? Is it pushing? Is it squeezing? How do you actually know it's there? If you had to describe it to somebody else, how would you say you know it's there?
Like a dull ache that kind of, I'd say more like a squeezing kind of, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So does it squeeze in or does it squeeze out?
Inwards.
Inwards. And all the time, tight or just like a pulsing?
Probably more like it's more continuous. Like in the beginning, it starts off more short, like, and then it seems to like.
Okay. That's great. Ooh, we've got a little bit of a freeze going on here. There we go. Perfect. So you said it starts and then it becomes more continuous as it goes on. Is that right? Okay, great. I know this is a bit of a silly question, but is there a colour? If you're looking at it from the outside inwards, can you see a colour around this in your tummy?
No, but red came to my mind, but I don't know whether it's because it's in your hair. So.
Could be my hair, couldn't it? But red came to mind. That's great. And in your tummy area where this is starting, and you said it starts and then it becomes more continuous, does it move anywhere else? Does it just stay in the tummy?
I feel like it's like I almost like I get hot and it like kind of comes up my back. Like, yeah, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, that's perfect. I want you to read them through again, darling girl, the things that you've got written down. So we've told me it starts in your tummy. To begin with, it's almost intermittent, but then it becomes continual. It's like a heat rising up your back. Is there anything else going on as you read them again?
I think like the mind almost goes into like a, how would you explain it? It's almost like chaos, more chaos in the mind. Yeah, yeah,
Does it like flip around? Is that what we mean?
yeah. Like more busy kind of thought. Like it's like trying to find a solution to the problem
Okay.
almost.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Like almost like somersaulting inside. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Is there any other sensation that we haven't yet talked about? As you read through it one more time, just check if there's anything else that's happening.
I suppose the like wanting to speak sometimes, like it's like wanting to express, yeah, wanting to, it's like I feel like I carry that emotion internally, like I want to express it, but I don't know how to voice that out. So,
Yeah. And so does anything happen around your throat or around your mouth?
um, like I think like I've noticed when I go to counseling is like I kind of hold my face like because my lip starts to quiver a little bit. So, yeah.
Okay. Perfect. That's amazing. Okay, Donna, we're going to drop the focus off you just for a moment, and I'm just going to talk about. I'm going to ask a couple of, when we play the game, a couple of pretty weird questions. So I always think if you're going to have a weird question chucked at you, it's kind of cool to have it chucked at you in advance so you sort of know what's coming. So I'm going to ask you, as we do this process, to work with your conscious mind, your unconscious, and your higher self. Now, for some people, these may be a couple of unusual concepts. So we'll just quickly explain what's going on. Your conscious mind is the mind that's paying attention to what I'm doing. It can see me on screen, it's hearing my voice, and at the same time, you're probably able to notice the feeling of the chair underneath your bottom. Your conscious mind is able to process 7 plus or minus 2 items of information every single second. So between 5 and 9, I always joke that for the women that must be 9 because we're great at multitasking, and for the men it's probably only 5. But what we're saying is it's 7 plus or minus 2, lots of information that are coming through your mind each second. Now, your unconscious mind is everything else. Your unconscious mind runs your automatic body movements. So your heart, your lungs, your kidneys, none of these functions, you don't have to think about them. You don't have to worry, is my heart actually beating right now? Are my kidneys filtering the fluid that means later I'm going to be able to go to the bathroom? It's just happening by itself. Also, your unconscious is keeping in mind for when you need it everything you've ever learned, everything you've ever experienced. It's also keeping all of your emotions. It's keeping all of your habits, how we put things together and routinely do them in an automatic fashion. All of this is being stored and managed by your unconscious. So I often make this movement for the unconscious because it's kind of pretty much everything down below. And if we were looking at an iceberg, your conscious mind is like the 10% little peak that we see above the water, and your unconscious is the 90% happening below. It's where I do most of my good work. It's all the stuff going down on underneath. So what we've got going on with our emotional responses is that they are stored down in our unconscious and we can't access them straight away. And we want to work with our higher self, that part of ourself that is connected to something outside of you, whether you believe in a God, whether you believe in a universe, a greater consciousness, just something that's outside of yourself. And the higher self is what we're going to call on today to help to release what you've got still stuck down there, those pearls that we talked about on your anger string that are from long, long, long ago. And how do we know they're there? Because when Donna is reading through her triggers, she is feeling the movement inside her body. She specifically told us starts in her tummy, moves up through her back. She can feel it happening. Something's going on in her head, but there's also that need to speak and the quivering lip. She described it beautifully. And I know that for each of you, you're going to have those same responses, but in your own words and in your own way, because obviously we've all had different experiences and we've stored our emotions in different ways, but inside. And if we haven't released them fully at the time, they're still stuck somewhere. So our goal is to get them to go. So when I say haven't released them at the time, this is our next moment to just cover off before we play the game. Because in the questions, I'm going to ask you one that's around your unconscious mind and conscious mind, and I'm going to ask you one that's around a time frame. And I'm going to ask you about whether what happened that stored this emotion deep inside of you happened to you before, during, or after your birth. And people are like, whoa, how could it possibly have been before my birth? We can all understand how it might have been during, because the birth passage is a bit of a challenging experience for both the mum and the child, particularly if you don't pass through, but you're brought out when there's a zipper been opened up. So the during is something we can understand, but the before is something many people can struggle with. So let's just think about for a moment how it's possible maybe that for you, it could have been something before your birth. I want you to remember that before you were you were a sperm and an egg that came together. We're not going to go any deeper into the biology of that, but let's think about what possibly you inherited from mum and dad. Did you inherit hair color? Did you inherit eye color? Did you inherit certain mannerisms? Or possibly, did you inherit certain energetic responses or even blocked energy that came from energetic responses, mum, dad, or even before them in the genealogical line may not yet have been resolved? Is it a possibility that they could have come to you? And certainly, if we look into some of the studies of how people who have been gifted an organ from someone else have suddenly remembered or experienced something that wasn't from their own past, There is definitely a school of thought that this is possible. So is it possible for you? Do you maybe even believe in reincarnation? Have you been here before? And if you've been here before, did you resolve everything in your previous incarnation before coming to this? So we're going through some pretty wild concepts here, and I'm just bringing them up for you to be able to grasp the possibility that something that you're working with in this life may possibly have come from before you were born. So I did promise I would let you know exactly what those two questions are that I'm going to ask you. And I am working with a script because being a little bit old, in one ear, out the other, so I don't want to forget anything. So these are exactly the words that I'm going to use. Number one, I'm going to ask you. So I reckon we've just literally blown up the internet, or maybe we just blew up my computer because all of a sudden it decided to do a blue screen and shut down as I was asking that first important question. So we're on recording part 2. As I say again, I'm going to ask you these pretty weird questions, and let's hope my computer can cope this time round. So the first question is going to be, is it totally okay with your unconscious mind for you to remove this negative emotion of anger here today and for you to be aware of it consciously? And there's only 2 answers to that question. So I'm going to bring Donna back in. So we're going to ask her to unmute. And there are only 2 answers, Donna, to the question, is it totally okay? What are the 2 answers?
So is it totally okay? Yes, it is okay to remove this negative emotion. Like,
So yes is one answer. What could be the other answer? If it wasn't yes, what would it be? If you don't want to say yes to me, what might you say?
I'd prefer not to.
Okay,
Like,
yes or no. Those are your only 2 answers. So for each of you out there doing this yourself on the replay, because obviously we're going live and wild here on the absolute live, but on the replay, your answer will be a yes or a no answer. So if you get a no answer, then we're going to need to cycle back round. But as long as it's yes, we're all good to go. Second question I'm going to ask you. If you were to know, what is the root cause or the first event which, when disconnected, will cause the problem of anger to disappear? When did you first feel anger? If you were to know, was it before, during, or after your birth? So again, the answer is in the question. There's 3 possible answers: before, during, or after. And remember, I am not asking your conscious mind. You haven't got to remember this. I'm asking your unconscious mind the question. Therefore, one of these 3 answers is going to feel, seem, sound right to you. And that's the one you're going to drop out of your mouth so that we're able to move the process along. Donna's going to demo it for you in a moment, but this is how you're able to do this for yourself while we play the game. So just 3 answers, and it's the one that feels, seems, sounds, is just kind of spot on for you, even if you don't understand why you're giving me that answer. Does that make sense to Donna? Yep. Donna's nodding for me, so that's good. So hopefully it's making sense to you too. So playing the game is super easy. It takes us less than 5 minutes. It's super safe. And I've got 3 ways for you to see if this process has worked for you or not, because we're only playing the game. So, Donna, how do you feel about giving it a go?
yeah, I'll give it a go.
Pretty ready? Okay. And the idea with this is we're having a little bit of fun. So it's light, it's lifting, and we'll just see where we go. And therefore, All that we do is we use what we've written down already. Donna has got her list of triggers. You've got yours. And what you do is you look at that list of triggers and you start reading them through. Just the triggers, nothing else. Reading them over and over, because we want you to get anger operating in your psychology as much as it can right here, right now, for us to play this game. So Donna is reading them through over and over. And as she's reading them, is she getting back the feeling she told us about before? So Donna, I'm now going to speak to you. You are, good girl, speaking to you directly. So you told me before that this starts in your tummy, and that to begin with, it's kind of on and off, and then it becomes almost chronic. It's kind of happening all the time. And it begins also to rise as a heat up your back. Your mind starts somersaulting, moving all around. And you said also that you get this sensation that you want to speak, but that you can't. So there's almost like a quivering lip thing going on. Is that what's happening for you right now as well?
Yeah, I can feel it coming up my back and all of that. So yeah, yeah.
Good. So for the purpose of this game, I want you to get those sensations as big as they can be. I want them to be as loud as they can be. Is there a sound connected when this happens for you? Can you hear anything?
No, I feel like it's more pictures. Like I have more like flashes of things that I can see. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So if it's pictures, you want them intense. You want the colors really bright. You mentioned that red was playing a part. So make that really intense. Make it big. Make it vibrant. And get it as big as you can. And then to play this game, we're just going to close our eyes for a few moments while I walk you through those questions, because I want you really focused internally on what's going on inside of you. So just about to get started. So therefore, go back to reading your triggers, getting the sensations as big, as loud, as intense as they can be. And as soon as you're ready and you know that you've got them as big, as loud, as intense as they can be, close your eyes and we'll quickly play the game. Is it totally okay with your unconscious mind for you to remove this negative emotion of anger here today, and for you to be aware of it consciously?
Yes.
If you were to know, what is the root cause or the first event, which, when disconnected, will cause the problem to disappear? When did you first feel anger? If you were to know, was it before, during, or after your birth?
I think it was before.
And if it was before your birth, was it in the womb or before?
I think it was before.
And if it was before, was it in a past life, or was it genealogical, coming down through the generations?
I think past life.
And if it was a past life, how many lifetimes ago? This is a number. Which number pops into your head, Donna? 2, is that correct? Perfect. Now, I want you to ask your unconscious mind to get you in touch with all of the emotion on all of the events from that root cause 2 lifetimes ago, all the way back to now. And on every subsequent event, really get in touch with the feeling of anger. You told me it starts in your tummy. When it begins, it's intermittent, and then it becomes more chronic. It stays in place, and then it's a gripping feeling, and the heat begins to rise up your back. Your mind's running all over the place, and you start to want to speak. Your lip is quivering. I really want you to pay attention to the feeling. And notice that your higher self is now removing it. And then you can notice when it starts to go. So I'm going to wait and you tell me when anything inside of you is different.
I feel like it's starting like on my back.
That's perfect. So ask your unconscious mind to preserve all of the positive learnings before you let go of all of the emotion. Pay real close attention to the emotion, where it is in your body, how it is in your body, how it's shifting, how it's moving, how it's leaving. And then you can notice that it's all gone right now. So I'm just going to wait while you check around, and then you let me know when it's all gone. Keep your eyes closed, my darling girl. Has it all gone? Okay, are you certain? Yeah. Keep your eyes closed for the final part and ask your unconscious mind to get from your higher self new strategies for being, for doing, for having what you want in the future. Ask your unconscious mind to install them in such a way that they will run automatically anytime that you want them to. Now, as these new strategies settle down softly deep inside, you may know how you're going to respond next time somebody does help you to feel anger. And you may not yet know. And that's perfect. Either way is absolutely right for you. But what you do know is that those strategies are settling softly deep inside. So as they do, I want you to reflect for a moment on the number 2, where it comes up in your world, how often you notice it, where it appears, and any significance it might have for you. So that when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes to come back into the room. Excellent work. Now, I promised all of you 3 ways to see if this is working for you. And Donna has just done this beautifully for you all as a great example. First way, Donna, coming back to speak to you, that you could see that this was working for you was you could tell me where the anger was in your body and how it was showing up for you. Correct or not correct? Yeah. So the second way, how did you know it was leaving?
I could feel almost like the energy shift. Like it was like my body went from like high to going down to low. Like I actually had a tear coming out of my eye. It was like almost like it was had released. So
Perfect. Do you know where it went?
I don't know, I just felt like it just went back into the ground. That's how I felt. Like, yeah, it was, yeah.
And for some people, they feel it goes down. Some people feel it goes up. Some people feel it just goes. Because if we were breaking that string of pearls right back at the beginning, all those pearls would be scattering everywhere and it would be difficult to keep count of where they've all gone. So that's perfect. The third way that you can see if this little game that we've just played has worked for you, I want you to look at your triggers, those things that you wrote down, and see if you can get back in touch with the feelings that we just worked with. Can you?
Feel the same. Like they're more words now than they are feelings. Like what I've written doesn't have the same effect as what it did when I first wrote it down. So
Amazing.
yeah.
So we were just playing a game, but it seems like you have done the whole release of all that old rubbish of anger. How cool is that?
It is cool. It
How powerful are you? Because you working in tune with your higher self, you did this, and I only guided you. So just to be certain, have we ever done this process together before, Donna? Have you come across this?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't. So yeah,
And we haven't done this work before. This is the first time that you've done it.
we've done
Because I just want people to see that in playing the game, it's already able to do the work. How cool is that? So
it.
Donna, I'm going to thank you hugely for being our demo here today. And I just want all of you to know that this is a process that I have used successfully for nearly 20 years with people of all ages. You've seen for yourself how very simple it is. So if there's something that you feel that you've got to release, but you don't want to talk about it, you want to do it in a highly confidential way, even in a room full of other people, in a big group, this is something we can all do together. I hope you found this useful. I hope you found it personally effective. And if I can help you in any way to move things forward, then please do get in touch, because this is one of my favorite processes. And when someone tells you to do an emotional release, this is my go-to for that. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you to Donna, who has demonstrated so perfectly how easy this is to do. Catch you all again very soon.